Welcome to Triple Take. Quick questions, straight answers. I'm Lina, and I've got the questions.
I'm Mike Hemsley. I'm Deputy Director of the Energy Transitions Commission, and I have the answers.
I am Vincent Minier, Vice President Energy Transition Research at the Schneider Electric Research Institute, and I have answers too.
And we're here in our second episode to discuss the latest report from the Schneider Electric Research Institute, Grid Relief from Smart Buildings. Vincent, as the author of the report, let me start with you. What was the aha moment or the gap that triggered you to launch this study?
In fact, there is a growing concern about grid congestion, both in the US and in the EU for different reasons. In the US, it's more about the growing load of AI data centers, while in Europe, it's more about electrification of EVs and heat pumps, for example, in the built environment. And this report is demonstrating how smart buildings equipped with distributed energy resources like rooftop solar paired with stationary battery, like smart charging, is providing a tool to reduce grid congestion. As shown for 5 buildings in 13 geographies, we show that we can recover power headroom and energy headroom, providing grid utilization back to the grid operators.
So, Mike, the Energy Transitions Commission is a global authority on demand-side flexibility. How does this study fit within the ETC's mission? And what's the one finding that made you sit up and take notice?
So we think clean electrification will do most of the world's decarbonization. And within that, flexibility is really important in bringing more clean electricity onto global electricity systems. I think where we at the ETC have quantified the global potential, which finds that 30% of all electricity demand might actually be flexible. I think what this Schneider study actually does is really take that next step in making this more tangible, looking at how buildings will lead the charge on this and looking at how a lot of this are investable propositions that work for building owners as asset managers, but also then have benefits of alleviating constraints on the grid. And really, I think that win-win is what really stood out to me. And hopefully this is the next step in this process of making some of these investments actually happen and relieving some of that grid stress.
So I'm going to wrap up with you. Based on this paper and the ETC's own work, what are your must-do recommendations for policymakers?
Make this easy for people to do. I think this is basically free flexibility that can be encouraged from commercial businesses, but also residential businesses. So where needed, remove barriers. Where needed, make sure that price signals work so that people can be incentivized to do this. It works for the people who own the buildings and it delivers societal benefits for all of us because it really reduces that grid stress as well.
So thank you, Mike and Vincent, for joining me on this episode of Triple Take. If you want to know more about grid relief from smart buildings, the full report is linked in the description below. See you next time.